It's time for America Outdoors Radio. The fast-paced hour of outdoors radio ahead is not only awesome, but unlike those other shows, you can actually sleep in for this one. Better still, we've got a special Pacific Northwest edition for you. You won't find this version of America Outdoors Radio anywhere else, and you'll only hear it here on KRKO AM 1380.
We start off our program today saying goodbye to what has been the longest current running outdoors radio show in the greater Seattle area. Joel Schenkel and his co-host, Bill Herzog, just wrapped up their final live edition of Northwest Wild Country a few minutes ago on KJR AM 950. The show has been airing since 2003. Joel Schenkel has been the man behind the operation since it started, and he's had some help along the way. Bill Herzog has been there quite a while. Dwayne England is another well-known Northwest angler who's been part of this program. It's been an informative and entertaining run for Northwest Wild Country. They've had some very high-powered guests over the years, and they've always had a strong focus on fishing, especially steelhead fishing in Washington State and British Columbia. Personally, I think there can never be enough fishing and hunting on the radio, so I, for one, am very sorry to see this show end, and I know I'm not alone. However, I do wish you, Joel and Bill, the best in whatever the next chapter of the outdoors brings you, and if either one of you are listening and you want to hop on the air, let me know. You are always welcome here on America Outdoors Radio and on our sister show, Northwestern Outdoors. This week on the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, we'll get a chance to talk to Bob Loomis again, who's got big news about a brand new twist to a classic item in the Mack Lure Company product lineup and some suggestions on how to use it to catch more fish. We'll also see if we can get a hold of Mike Meisberg at MarDon Resort. The good old days appear to be back with fantastic fishing for bass, walleye, trout, and crappie at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir. Mike will give you some tips on how to catch one of these species out of this 27,000-acre lake at the end of our program today. Continuing with our opening segment, which is brought to you by your local Sportsman's Warehouse store on Everett Mall Way. May 27th was a halibut day in portions of Puget Sound, and quite a few anglers were after them, though many came home empty-handed. 133 anglers were checked with 21 halibut by creel checkers at CQ. 185 fishermen and women brought in 21 halibut to the John Wayne Marina near Sequim, and 215 anglers were checked at the Port Angeles ramps with 28 halis. Well, if you want a sure thing, there's always lingcod and rockfish out of Nia Bay like we talked about last week, right? Checking in with NorthwestFisheryReports.com, the founder of the website, Michael Carey, got out on the water Memorial Day weekend hunting for kokanee at Lake Merwin. His fishing started off slow, but eventually he found those kokanee and ended up with half a dozen measuring between 11 and 13.5 inches. Better fishing was found by a poster who goes by the handle of Doc Skipper, who took his wife and young child onto Lake Washington last weekend for a short trip going after smallmouth bass. Doc Skipper caught 4 smallies, measuring 14 to 17 inches. Very nice, but he was really proud of the 21-inch, 5+ pound bass his wife reeled in, and yes, he posted a photo of it on NorthwestFisheryReports.com. Finally, it's a great weekend to be fishing, crabbing, or clamming on the Tillamook Coast or anywhere else in the state of Oregon because no license is required to participate in any of these activities today and tomorrow. And today is also a free day to camp in Oregon State Parks too. You can thank me later if you take advantage of this on-the-cheap Oregon fishing and camping road trip. And now you know what's hot and what's not, right here in the Pacific Northwest.
And with that, let's head to this week's national edition of America Outdoors Radio.
NorthwestFishingReports.com is the Northwest's largest fishing reports website, featuring well over 50,000 fishing reports, videos, articles, and more. All 100% free. Catch more fish with Northwest Fishing Reports. Log on today.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome to another weekend of the great outdoors. Do you have any dream hunts planned for big game this year in our United States? Several states come to mind when it comes to these once-in-a-lifetime hunts, and one of them on most people's list is to hunt Montana. If you dream of hunting in Big Sky Country, you might want to put in for a super tag. It's only $5 to do so, and if your name's drawn, you can hunt for your choice of a moose, a bighorn sheep, a mountain goat, elk, deer, antelope, mountain lion, or even a bison this fall. And you can do so in any district open to hunting for the species you've drawn. I mean, yeah, you can go down to the local convenience store and buy yourself a lottery ticket, but this lottery, if you're a hunter, it's a lot more fun. Plus, your odds of winning the Super Tag lottery are a lot better than they are of winning Mega Millions or Powerball. You've got until June 28th to buy as many $5 Super Tag chances as you want, and you'll also need to buy a conservation license from the state of Montana as well. Good luck. Speaking of dream hunts, the first grizzly bear hunt in the lower 48 states that most of us have ever seen in our lifetimes is set to occur this year. This is happening because the grizzly bears in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, an area outside of Yellowstone National Park encompassing portions of Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming, well, the population's gotten big enough that they're no longer an endangered species, and hunting is needed to control the population numbers. The state of Idaho has announced they are going to issue one tag, and it's going to go to an Idaho resident. Montana is sitting this one out this year. They're going to see how things go in the other states. And in Wyoming, there are tags available. Reports are anywhere from 11 to 24 tags, and they may be open to hunters outside of Wyoming too. We're going to talk to Rennie McKay with Wyoming Game and Fish to find out more about this opportunity to hunt a bear most of us thought would never be hunted again south of the Canadian border. The recovery of grizzly bears in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem has been a major conservation success story, but there's a lot of other conservation challenges out there, and many of them are happening in our oceans. One real problem is that of derelict fish nets, either lost or discarded, that continue to kill fish, birds, marine mammals, and more for years. They're often referred to as ghost nets, and there's an organization doing something about this issue, and they are partnering with Costa, makers of some really high-quality sunglasses favored by anglers, to recycle old fishing nets into sunglasses for Costa. You'll find them in the Untangled collection, and Todd Barker with Costa will join us in a few minutes to tell you more about this great initiative. We'll be talking about fishing this week too. We've got fishery reports from you from all over our great nation, and one of the fisheries we'll tell you about doesn't even get going until August, but it's so popular that we want to let you know about it now so that you can book a trip if you want to. What fishery are we talking about here? It's the famous Buoy 10 salmon fishery at the mouth of the Columbia River bordering Oregon and Washington. Jim Stahl, the longtime owner of Northwest Fishing Guides, will explain why so many people come here every summer for a chance to hook into some big Chinook and coho salmon. Before we get any further, though, into fishing and all this other good stuff, it's time to catch up with one of my favorite tournament anglers, a young man who hails from Macon, Georgia. Next on America Outdoors Radio, we're checking in with Clayton Batts. He's a FLW tournament angler. Clayton, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
We are doing great, but I thought we would check in to see how the tournament trail has treated you so far in 2018.
Yes, sir. This has probably been my roughest year on tour to date, to say the least. I've had just a couple missed opportunities, and when you're fishing against this group of guys, if you make one bad decision or miss an opportunity, you can fall back really, really quick.
Well, I see you've got at least 12 grand in the bag, so at least you've got your gas money paid for and some hotel rooms, but I'm guessing you're hoping for better things as the tournament season goes on. Where's your next tournament?
Next tournament, it is up in Detroit, Michigan, up on Lake St. Clair. And then after that, I got the Costa Championship on Lake Gunnersville.
And have you fished either one of these bodies of water before?
I've been up to St. Clair once, probably 5 years ago, and fished up there. And the Costa Championship is on Lake Gunnersville, and that's probably one of my favorite lakes.
So let's talk about fishing at this time of year, because the spawn is over. And, I love fishing during the spawn. Of course, it's all catch and release for me and just about every other bass angler who fishes the spawn. But, anybody feels like a good fisherman because those fish, they're in the shallows. They're very aggressive as they're defending their nests, and you can see them. But once the spawn's over, they leave those places, and for a lot of us, it gets a lot tougher to catch them. Any advice?
After the spawn gets over with, I normally run 2 patterns depending on the body of water that I'm on. When we're going up like fish Tennessee River and stuff like that, obviously those fish migrate out to the ledges. This real offshore deal, fishing, 20, 25 feet deep. The other option I like to do is a bunch of lakes around home. We don't have that current to push them out deep. Our thermocline is so severe that they pretty much live 8 feet and shallower the whole year. So those fish that stay up shallow, my prominent bait of a prop bait and a pop-ar, because I'm trying to imitate the bluegill that are up there spawning all summer and the shad that are up there.
So when you're talking about a prop bait, that's a topwater offering. What about other topwater at this time of year during the post-spawn? Frogs, or, we'll even go really old school, like things like jitterbugs.
Yes, a frog is a real good option. One thing I like to do with a frog, and it's actually my favorite time of year to throw a frog, a bunch of people, when they start thinking about frogs, they start thinking about fishing grass with it, lily pads and things like that, which that's a great choice for fishing those different types of scenarios. But one of my favorite ways to do it is we don't have that back home. We have docks, a bunch of trees that are hanging over the bank, and that's the way I fish it. I love skipping that frog back under the shade and fishing for those fish that are back there in the shade ready to ambush the bluegill.
That is a great piece of advice. All right, folks, so break out the frogs, break out the prop baits, getting back into that deeper water for those fish that are, moving to the ledges there. Are we talking crankbaits? Are we talking jigs? And what kind of presentation? A faster presentation?
When those fish first come out there and come offshore, that is the dumbest they'll be all year. Nobody's really beat on them yet out there. They're recovering from the spawn, so they want to eat. So you can really use about anything you want to use. That's when crankbaits come in, the big nickel spoon, anything like that you can cover water with real quick. A hair jig is a great bait to throw that time of year, big swim bait. But the longer those fish stay out there, everybody's got great low-rance grass these days. So they're able to find those fish, and you're fishing for fish that other people are rotating through too. And it comes into more subtle baits, throwing a drop shot, a big shaky head. And those are great ways to get those schools fired. And then when you get that school fired up, you can go to some of those faster baits like the hair jig, big crankbait, and a big spoon.
Well, Clayton, I think you're reinstalling my confidence when it comes to bass fishing at this time of year, and I think you've just given some great tips for other anglers out there, too. Now, you've got a website, ClaytonBats.com, and you got a Facebook page, too, but before we let you go, I know that when it comes to the tournament angling, you've got sponsors that really support you. Why don't you let us know who some of those are?
Yes, sir. I've been fortunate enough to align myself with some of the best sponsors in the industry and outside the industry. One of the best ones I got is Cone Coolers. If you haven't checked those out, be sure to check those out at conecoolers.com. Ardent Reels, that comes in to making those long casts, fishing out deep. And when you're fishing up shallow, being able to skip that frog, prop bait, and get it back in places where you can't get it. Normal bait, bass boats for sale. If you're interested in finding a bass boat or trying to sell a bass boat, be sure to check them out. Carbon Skim Products, Strike Zone Lures, Savage Gear. Savage Gear makes some great swim baits for fishing offshore and shallow. Enigma rods, Phoenix boats, Mercury Marine, Low-Rance. Those are key to finding those offshore fish when they get out there this time of year. And Power Pole. Wouldn't be able to do it without Power Pole.
Well, there you go. Those are just some of the folks that are keeping Clayton Batts fishing on the tournament trail this year. I wish you the best of luck. And folks, if you want to follow Clayton, he's a true gentleman, great guy to keep up with. Go to his website, ClaytonBatts, BATTS.com, or follow his Facebook page at Clayton Batts. Clayton, good luck the rest of the year on the FLW tournament trail.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products are designed and built for you right here in the USA. Fish Fighter products are used by the top fishing guides in the Northwest because they know having the right equipment is imperative to a successful fishing trip. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, Fish Fighter products makes the gear you can count on. Find out more at fishfighterproducts.com.
I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to our show. It's Sportsman's Cove Lodge, and many anglers who have been there will tell you it really is Alaska's best lodge. Sportsman's Cove Lodge sits on a salmon highway full of kings and silvers. There's halibut too, and there are some really big ones. Finally, with decades of experience taking care of customers, Sportsman's Cove Lodge knows how to treat you right from start to finish. Ready to book your trip of a lifetime? Then call Sportsman's Cove Lodge at 800-962-7889. That's 800-962-7889. 800-962-7889 for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offer spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
We're talking to Mike Meisberg again at MarDon Resort at Eastern Washington's huge Potholes Reservoir. Mike, why is your resort so popular every summer?
Fun in the sun, in a beautiful warm camping area, swimming area, fishing for all kinds of fish, especially topwater bass fishing.
We are just scratching the surface as to why you'll want to head there this summer. Find out more at MarDonResort.com. That's MarDon Resort, where the fish bite, but we don't.
It doesn't matter what sort of adventure you're after, whether it's big game deep in the backcountry, a day of fishing out on the water, or an overnight in the great outdoors. At Sportsman's Warehouse, we've got the gear in here for what you need out there. Gear up for your next adventure at one of the Sportsman's Warehouse stores or shop online. Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter.
Tillamook Bay is considered the greatest fishing experience on the west coast for fall Chinook salmon and winter steelhead, and Dungeness crab is plentiful. 5 major rivers connect with the ocean on the Tillamook coast. It's not unusual to snag a 40 to 50 pounder. Go out in a boat or stand on a riverbank or dock. Try fishing from a dory boat and experience the thrill of a beach launch and landing. Use spinners, sand shrimp, or salmon eggs to lure them. The fish will line up to grab your bait. Go to tillamookcoast.com/fishing to find guides and places to stay.
Are you an outfitter, sporting goods retailer, boat dealer, or someone else in the outdoors industry? If you are, you know targeted advertising works best, and what would work better than advertising with America Outdoors Radio? Our hour-long show is heard throughout Seattle, Everett, and the East Side every Saturday morning, and your message will be heard there too. Better still, our rates are way more affordable than you think. Want to find out more? Contact me, John Cruz, through my website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. That's America Outdoors Radio, bringing you more business. Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. It's time to talk a little bit about conservation because there's a real problem out there on our oceans, folks. It's the problem of ghost nets, derelict fishing nets that have reached the end of their lifespan or have been lost by fishermen, but they continue to kill fish and other species as well. With us here to tell us about a potential partial solution for this is Todd Barker with Costa Sunglasses. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. Excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to tell folks about the partnership you have with an organization called Buoy, where you are basically taking these discarded fishing nets and turning them into sunglasses for people to wear. Tell me more.
Yeah, so we're really excited to be partnering with these guys. It's been about 3 years in the making from when our product development and innovation team started talking to them, and we're really excited to raise awareness about this issue of discarded fishing nets in our oceans, and really excited to share this collection with the world.
So let's talk a little bit more about the problem of these derelict fishing nets. I understand Buoy removes 220,000 pounds of fish nets a year from our oceans, or at least keeps them from getting into our oceans. But these kill a lot of fish. I understand the stats are like 4 times as much fish sometimes as they ever harvested while they were, in service with fishermen.
Yeah, so I mean, the kind of scientific community has a lot of different statistics around discarded fishing nets and gear. But yeah, one of them that's recently been revealed is that yes, fishing nets have been identified as being 4 times more dangerous to marine life than any other form of plastic pollution in our ocean. So just to your point, earlier, they're drifting around in the oceans, they're tangling up fish and marine mammals and all sorts of different marine life, and they really just they do a lot more than just kind of polluting our oceans. They're out there doing real damage. In addition to the entanglements, they can get tearing up coral reefs and various other sort of underwater structures that are important for marine life.
I never even thought about the part with the coral reef, but I've certainly seen a lot of news stories. As a matter of fact, it seems more lately where whales, gray whales and other whales are getting entangled in these nets and washing ashore dead because of this situation. So let's talk a little bit about Buoy. Where are they located and how are they keeping these nets out of the ocean?
So Buoy is a Southern California company. They are located in Ventura, California, and they are accomplishing this by partnering with fishing communities down on the coast of Chile. So they have this really innovative, business model and partnership where they are, going to these various fishing ports and have all these relationships with the commercial fishermen. And the commercial fishermen are actually giving Buoy, and Buoy is also purchasing these too, but they are basically acquiring the nets at the end of the life from the commercial fishing communities. And then Buoy is taking these nets in and they are processing them and turning the net material back into its raw form, which is like a nylon 6 pellet, and then they're using these pellets for a variety of goods, and obviously our Untangled Collection sunglasses. So it's a really innovative kind of manufacturing process as well as business model. They're taking these nets that would otherwise either be just discarded in the ocean or left on the side of a shoreline, or at best case scenario, maybe in a landfill somewhere, which doesn't really happen very often. But long story short, they have a real solution to getting these nets out of the environment and certainly out of the ocean and getting them into, high-performance products.
And where is Buoy doing this work? Is it here in North America or elsewhere?
So Buoy right now currently is doing all this work along the coast of Chile. So they have, various collection points all throughout the country. And relationships all throughout the country. And I mean, if you look at a map, it's Chile is a huge country from north to south. I believe it's longer than the entire west coast of the United States. But obviously, being at so much coastline along the water, it has a huge fishing, operations and infrastructure down there. So they're currently working in Chile. Their goals, and I don't want to speak for them too explicitly, but I know them pretty well through this partnership. But their goals are obviously to collect all of the fishing nets that become, discarded or used from Chile, and then they'll plan to expand their operations elsewhere. But at the end of the day, they're just trying to use as much material as they can and get it into, new products.
So I'm assuming with your partnership, you're supporting Buoy by paying them for these discarded fishing nets, which are in turn turned into sunglass frames for you.
Yes, exactly. So essentially, although Borreo, they make other products that they market out of this material, and they have partnerships with other brands. But essentially, yes, we buy the raw material from Borreo. So we buy the nylon 6 pellets that had been processed from the fishing nets, and then we work with our sunglass frame manufacturers, and we're putting those pellets in the molds, and we're making sunglasses out of them.
Well, I've had a few pairs of Costa sunglasses before, and they are awesome indeed. So let's talk about the Untangled collection, which is made out of these discarded fishing nets. Tell our listeners briefly about the Untangled collection.
So right now, the Untangled collection is 4 different frame styles. We have 2 that are more masculine, sort of male-focused, and 2 that are more female-focused and unisex. And we have a variety of lens colors in all of these different frames. So you can have, the kind of the blue or green mirror, sort of traditional, Costa look, or the lenses that a lot of people wear in our frames. And then we have them in just our normal non-mirrored gray and copper, and a variety a little bit differently determining on the frame style. But, essentially all of the frames are made exclusively from the Borreo fishnet material. And then we have glass lenses in all of our frames, which is our most premium lens that we make. We really were very conscious about not trying to use plastic at all in the manufacturing of these frames outside of the Borreo plastic, the recycled plastic. So we have glass lenses, we have recycled aluminum, Costa logos on the side of the frames, and then the rubber touch points on the temple and nose pads are made by this company called Plus Foam, and it's really interesting material as well. So it's a recycled rubber that's also recyclable at the end of life, and we actually have a partnership with Plus Foam that these sunglasses at their end of the life, if you break them or they become unable for you to wear anymore and you don't really have any use for them, then you can send the entire sunglass back to Plus Foam, and they'll recycle all the components 100%.
Well, I absolutely love it. Last question. Is the Untangled collection from Costa Sunglasses, is it available in stores now?
Yes, it is. We just started shipping about a week ago. They are available on Costa retail locations, so you can go on our website and check out our dealer locator. They're also available online on our website at costadelmar.com.
So costadelmar.com is your first stop. Look for the Untangled collection. Retail price is $199 to $269. Purchase a pair and do your part to help the environment. Again, it's the Untangled collection from Costa Sunglasses. Todd, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Really appreciate you having me, John.
Why book at Sportsman's Cove Lodge?
Why is Alaska like no other place on Earth? It hasn't changed in thousands of years.
From the way you get here on a float plane to the way you go out with the guides and the boats, it's just a professional experience.
And I said, this is as good as it gets. I said, if you can't catch fish here, you can't catch fish anywhere.
Your experience with us will leave you speechless.
Book now at alaskasbestlodge.com.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products were designed for you. Fish Fighter products are used by the top fishing guides in the Northwest because they know having the right equipment is imperative to a successful fishing trip. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, you'll spend more time chasing the fish, not your gear. Designed and built right here in the USA. Gear up at fishfighterproducts.com.
It's time for another local shot of the outdoors. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, and you'll only hear it here on FOX Sports 1380 KRKO.
It's time for another Mack's Minute.
Fish on!
Brought to you every week by Mack's Lure Company. With me again is Bob Loomis. And Bob, you've got several packages of Smile Blades laid out here in the studio, but I got to tell you, these Smile Blades look a little different than the ones I'm used to seeing. What's up?
Well, these are a little different. These are a brand new UV Diamond series that we just brought out. The base color is a high UV background with a diamond sparkle on top of that high UV background. So they work fantastic for a lot of different styles of fishing, whether it's, fishing colored water, whether it's for fishing, clear water and trying to attract fish from a long distance away. They work fantastic for a lot of different things.
So what about clear water situations? Would this actually work against you? Because it looks like these are going to give off quite a bit of flash.
No. What you would do is you would downsize, go to just a touch smaller blade than what you generally would if you're fishing real clear water. But what you want, obviously, is because of the high UV as well as that diamond sparkle that's on there, you're going to be able to attract from further away.
And that's really the name of the game, is getting those fish to your lure. Further away they can see it, the more successful you're going to be. So look for the brand new UV Diamond Series Smile Blade in stores near you. When is it going to hit the shelves?
We just got them, so they're just starting to hit the shelves right now.
And are they available online?
Yes, they are.
All right. MaxLure.com for the UV Diamond Series Smile Blade, brand new product. Check it out.
There's a whole bunch more of the great outdoors coming your way on Fox Sports 1380.
Are you looking for a game changer to help you catch more trout, kokanee, and salmon? No problem. Just tie on Mack's Crip Lure. Cast it or troll it. Either way, its specially designed ring chamber emits a low-frequency vibration with its erratic movement. It will catch more fish and make them strike. Better still, the different colors for the lure can be matched to just about any fishery. Look for the Crip Lure from Mack's Lure Company at a sporting goods store near you or go online at maxlure.com.
Are you an outfitter, sporting goods retailer, boat dealer, or someone else in the outdoors industry? If you are, you know targeted advertising works best, and what would work better than advertising with America Outdoors Radio? Our hour-long show is heard throughout Seattle, Everett, and the East Side every Saturday morning, and your message will be heard there too. Want to find out more? Contact me, John Cruz, through my website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. The first grizzly bear hunt in the lower 48 states that has taken place in the lifetime of many is likely going to happen this fall. And the place that most people are going to participate is the state of Wyoming. With us here to tell us more about this first hunt in a long time is Rennie McKay with Wyoming Game and Fish. Rennie, great to have you on the show.
Oh, great to be with you, John. Thanks for letting me come on to talk about this decision.
Well, Rennie, grizzly bears in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, including portions of Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana, well, they're no longer a federally endangered species, meaning states can manage them. There's an estimated 700, give or take, grizzlies roaming this area. Wyoming has opted to open a hunting season this year. Why?
Well, hunting, as it is with other large carnivores here in Wyoming, we've got mountain lions, black bears, wolves, and hunting is part of the management for all of those species out here. And it's always been discussed as one of the tools, as it is with other wildlife, to provide management and provide conservation of the species. And so the other part of this is that the proposal that was approved by the Wyoming Game and Fish Commission last week ensures that the grizzly bear population will not be negatively impacted, just as the populations of black bears and mountain lions hasn't been negatively impacted in Wyoming, where we've had hunting for decades of them. So this is just a tool we can use. Hopefully we can reduce some conflict with humans and bears through this. But basically, it's because the science supports that this is a feasible management tool that won't negatively impact the bears.
I'm glad you said that, but let's be honest. There are voices out there. There are groups out there that say that the state of Wyoming doesn't like grizzly bears, and this hunting season is just an effort to put them back on the endangered species list.
Sure, yeah, definitely. And we heard from a lot of different voices on this proposal, and as we just discussed, the future of grizzly bear management in Wyoming. We've had a lot of public conversations, some informal and some formal, discussions with the public here, and definitely some people are just against the hunting of grizzly bears on its face, and that's understandable, definitely. But certainly we're not at all in favor of trying to put grizzly bears back on the endangered species list. They were removed from the endangered species list last year, but their population and all of the different components of recovery of the species, we've actually met those since the year 2004. So the species, when it went on the list and through the time that it was on the endangered species list, what was considered the goal for making sure that the species was recovered, we met all those goals starting in 2004. So the population numbers and also diversity of the population and other indicators of a healthy population have been in place for a long time. So this population has been and just continues to do well, and hunting is not going to impact that. And further, here in Wyoming, through the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, we've actually played a really large role in recovering the species. Sometimes with endangered species, it's left to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the federal agency, but here the state agencies played a really significant role in recovery. We've spent more money than any other governmental agency on the recovery of grizzly bears. $50 million of license hunting and fishing license fee revenue has gone towards grizzly bear recovery. So that's a huge investment, and it's just not an investment that we would risk. And furthermore, we're really proud to have recovered the grizzly bears, and we're going to make sure that they stay recovered.
You're listening to America Outdoors Radio. We're talking to Rennie McKay with Wyoming Game and Fish about the first grizzly bear hunt that's going to happen in the lower 48 in the lifetime of most of us, decades and decades. Rennie, I've seen a lot of numbers tossed about in terms of how many permits are being issued. I've seen everything from 24 to 23 to 11. What's the actual number of permits that's going to be issued for this fall, and how did the commission arrive at this figure?
What happens is there's kind of two parts of this. There's what's considered the suitable habitat. All the experts in recovery looked at and drew a line around the ecosystem and said, inside here is suitable habitat. So that's where you need to try to recover bears. Outside of that is not suitable habitat for bears. And so inside that area, that's where you get the number 11, and that's the quota for grizzly bears in Wyoming that was just approved by our commission. And that's a really conservative number. There's one female in that quota, and we will only have one hunter in the field total at any one time to make sure we do not go over that quota. And if a female is killed, then the hunt ends. So it could be one bear total taken in that suitable habitat of Wyoming. Outside of that is where it's not so suitable habitat and where there's more conflicts. And also then the population doesn't count towards recovery. So when you said that number of 700 is the population estimate, that's inside suitable habitat. Outside that suitable habitat, we have a quota of 12. And, for people who are interested in the opportunity to hunt, they shouldn't expect that their success rate is going to be that high in that area. It's just a much harder place to find bears because it's not suitable habitat for them.
Gotcha. So within the suitable habitat, 11 permits. But again, once a sow is taken, that hunt ends. Outside of the suitable habitat, there's another 12, but chances of success are not as good, 23 total. Here's the next question. I understand both residents and non-residents can apply to hunt a grizzly bear in Wyoming. How does this work? How much does it cost? And how do you go about applying for a chance at one of these tags?
Our application period for this will open in July and be open for 2 weeks there at the beginning of July. And there would be 2 non-resident tags available inside that suitable habitat and 2 outside of it. So 4 non-residents, and the price for that is $6,000 or $6,002 with the service fee that somebody would have to pay. Residents would get the remaining licenses, and those cost $600 for them, and those costs are set by state law here in Wyoming. So, applying online, it will be a different kind of system because we've tried to put in all kinds of things to make sure that this hunt is as conservative as possible. So again, we would only have one person in that suitable habitat out in the field at any one time. And as you said, if a sow is taken, the season ends, or when a sow is taken and the season ends, or when 10 male are taken, the season ends. So you can't actually exceed 10 total bears taken inside that suitable habitat under this system. And there's other things. There will be some education required to make sure people can identify grizzly bears and have some sense of the difference between a male and a female. And then we're doing a few other things, like giving folks like a spot receiver type device to have in the field with them so they can communicate with the Game and Fish Department very quickly from remote parts of the state, because that's where this hunt will be taking place, is in very remote areas.
One thing I want to nail down here in terms of the price. So $6,000 for a non-resident. That's just to apply. That's not a guarantee you're going to get drawn.
Well, you're doing it a little bit differently, no. So you wouldn't pay upon application. You just pay the application fee if you're applying. And then if you are selected, if you're in that group for who will have the opportunity to hunt, then you would be charged the $6,000. And you also have to confirm that you've got your hunter education or will have it by the time you're in Wyoming.
Whew, that's good, because that would have been really expensive otherwise. All right, last question. I'm sure there's lawsuits that are going to be filed. Do you anticipate legal action could shut down this hunt before it even starts?
Well, I'm no attorney, but there are lawsuits that are in the court system now challenging the action by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to remove grizzly bears from the endangered species list. And there will be a court hearing on that in August, so we'll just be watching that to find out if the judge decides to put them back on the endangered species list. But that's looking at that action by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, not a challenge of the hunting itself at this point. Hunting has always been considered that it would be one of the tools in management of grizzly bears, so I think everyone knew that was coming.
And what are the proposed dates for the season?
So in the suitable habitat, it starts September 15th and ends November 15th. And again, we'll just close when any of those quota are met. Outside that area that's considered the suitable habitat, that hunt area opens September 1st and closes November 15th.
All right, well, we have to go. But again, folks, 23 permits are going to be issued this year by the state of Wyoming to hunt grizzly bears for the first time in decades, and I mean many decades. So if you want to apply, go to the Wyoming Game and Fish website. Just Google that, or if you're got a pen ready, here it is. It's wgfd.wyo.gov. That's wgfd.wyo.gov. Rennie, thanks for sharing this historic news with us on America Outdoors Radio.
John, thanks for having me.
There's a place where the fishing is year-round, where the sun shines 300 days a year. The wineries and breweries are right downtown. The hiking and cycling offers spectacular views you just don't get in the big cities. Fortunately, the place is real and vibrant. It's the Dalles, Oregon, just 90 short minutes from Portland, along the gorgeous Columbia River, where the adventures are limited only by your imagination. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to our show. It's Sportsman's Cove Lodge, and many anglers who have been there will tell you it really is Alaska's best lodge. Sportsman's Cove Lodge sits on a salmon highway full of kings and silvers. There's halibut too, and there are some really big ones. Finally, with decades of experience taking care of customers, Sportsman's Cove Lodge knows how to treat you right from start to finish. Ready to book your trip of a lifetime? Then call Sportsman's Cove Lodge at 800-962-7889. That's 800-962-7889. 800-962-7889 for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com.
If you consider yourself a hardcore fisherman who takes pride in being the first person on the water and the last one off, Fish Fighter products were designed for you. We make products for the relentless fishermen who know that big fish are caught by those who put in the work. With our Relentless Series tackle trays, rocket launcher rod racks, and breakaway river anchors, you'll spend more time chasing the fish, not your gear. Designed and built right here in the USA, Fish Fighter products won't let you down. Gear up at fishfighterproducts.com.
Planning to head outdoors today? The National Shooting Sports Foundation reminds you to check the fire danger levels in your area. Whether target shooting, camping, or even parking a car with a hot exhaust, remember to take precautions. If you're going shooting in dry conditions, minimize the possible risk of fire by not using steel-jacketed or steel core ammunition, tracer rounds, or exploding targets. As we know, wildfires have many possible causes. Don't be one of them.
You're back with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz, and this portion of the show is brought to you by Fish Fighter Products. They're located in the great state of Idaho, and they're all about bringing you accessories for your fishing boat. They sell them direct to you at fishfighterproducts.com, and these accessories, they're meant to make your life on the water easier, so you can spend more time fishing and less time dealing with stuff wishing you were fishing. The website again is fishfighterproducts.com, and for all of you listening in the greater Portland, Oregon area, you can also find their products at Stevens Marine. You may have heard the Department of Interior is opening up more access to hunters and anglers on 30 national wildlife refuges around the country. From the fishing tackle retailer, we can share an analysis of exactly which ones will be opening up, not only for hunting, but for fishing access too. They are the San Pablo Bay National Wildlife Refuge in California. They'll expand their existing bird hunting and open up sport fishing for the very first time. In Indiana, it's the Patoka River National Wildlife Refuge. They too will expand existing game bird hunting, upland bird hunting, big game hunting, and sport fishing too. The Wallkill River National Wildlife Refuge, stretching across New York into New Jersey, will expand existing migratory game bird hunting and sport fishing. And in Oregon, the William L. Finley National Wildlife Refuge will also expand existing sport fishing opportunities. We've got some fishing reports for you from around our great nation. We'll start off in Alaska, where king salmon fishing has started off slow on the famed Kenai and Castleoff rivers, but close to Anchorage, anglers are starting to reel in some kings out of Ship Creek. And Alaska Fish and Game reports halibut fishing in the waters near Ketchikan is good. Heading to the border of Wyoming and Utah, the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources says the fishing on Flaming Gorge Reservoir ranges from fair to hot, depending on what you're after. And there's a lot to go after here. The lake trout fishing, fair. The kokanee angling, unseasonably good. Rainbow trout, they've been stocked reservoir-wide, and the catching has been excellent for both shore and boat-based anglers. And don't forget your bass gear, because the smallmouth are biting too. Heading east, most people think of walleye when it comes to Lake Erie, but the tributaries, well, they offer opportunities too, and according to the state of New York, right now, the fishing's pretty good on those tributaries. In fact, it's prime time for smallmouth bass fishing in these Lake Erie tributaries. Woolly buggers and minnow imitations are good bets for fly anglers, and if you've got conventional gear, stick baits, minnows, or jigs with grubs, fished under a float, will catch those smallies too. If you prefer channel catfish, the lower section of Cattaraugus Creek is a good place to go, as is the shoreline of Lake Erie itself, especially near stream inlets on a calm night. Try fishing night crawlers, chicken livers, or raw shrimp off the bottom for bites from channel cats. Finally, you need look no further than the mid-May FLW Bass Tournament to know the fishing on Kentucky Lake along the shared border of Kentucky and Tennessee was pretty tough a couple of weeks ago. The bass were late spawning this year, and that threw off most of the pros who struggled to get fish into the boat for the weigh-ins. However, bass fishing should be improving now on the ledges these bass move to after the spawn. And don't forget your crappie gear either, because the crappie are done spawning, moving into deeper water, and they are hungry. Our thanks to Explore Kentucky Lake for this update. Next on America Outdoors Radio, we are taking you to the Pacific Northwest to the mouth of the Columbia River bordering Oregon and Washington. That's where Jim Stahl is going to be fishing later this summer at the famous Buoy 10 salmon fishery. Jim owns Northwest Fishing Guides. Great to have you on the show, Jim.
Great to be here.
So, Jim, the Buoy 10 salmon fishery, what are you going to be fishing for in terms of what type of salmon, and why is this fishery such a big deal in the Pacific Northwest? And this question is mainly for our listeners who live in the Midwest and back east who don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's mainly we're fishing for king salmon and coho salmon. The big draw to this whole fishery, and I've actually call it a world-class fishery now, is in the last 10 years we've just had a real big push of hatchery fish, and then we've also had some wild fish that have rebounded, especially on the Hanford Reach, and they're fairly big fish. I mean, most of the bigger fish are going to be, 30 pounds, maybe 35 pounds. We see those fish every day, but it's a really good activity for families. It's August. It's usually, 70 to 80 degrees. We get a little marine layer in the morning, but there's lots to see in the area. We have Astoria Column and Fort Stevens and the whole coast. You can go all the way to down to Tillamook if you want, and on the Washington side, I mean, you've got Cape Disappointment and can go all the way up to Westport if you wanted to. But it's a great destination fishery because if the family all doesn't want to fish, there's also things for the family members to do, and dad and brother or son can go fishing, and wives can go shopping, and it works for everybody.
Well, it sounds like a great family vacation to me. Let's get back to the fishing, though. How do you and other guides out there go about catching these salmons? What are the basic techniques you use?
Most of the time we're trolling herring. We're either using lead to get us down or divers. It used to be a big diver fishery, but in the last few years it's been lead. Up to a Yakima bait fish flash. We use a slider on the lead to try to keep it out of the net. Most of the time we're either trolling with the current or holding into it, which they basically call back trolling. But we fish anywhere from tongue point, Portuguese point, all the way to the mouth, and the mouth is the line of demarcation is Buoy 10. It's always referred to as the Buoy 10 fishery, but we're not always at the buoy. But these fish are coming in on every tide, and they're just a blast to catch. Once you usually find one or two, you're going to usually find, a boatload, and that's the key to this fishery is get that herring down, get it spinning, and you're going to catch these fish.
So we are talking about summer Chinook here, and of course the coho that are coming in as well. What are the numbers looking like this year, and have they announced limits yet?
They kind of have announced the limits. They're a little worried of the Thule stock, which is a lower river spawner. The 1st through the 24th of August, we're going to have a one-fish limit. It can be either a king or a coho, and in that time period, almost everybody's going to want the king, which is the bigger fish. And then after that, after the 24th, it's going to go to a two-fish limit. Coho only at Buoy 10, but up above Tongue Point, it will be back to a two-fish limit, and you can have your king and your coho. So most of the time, the game plan after the 24th is run to Tongue Point, get your king, come back and process it, and then go out and get your coho. And I've done that before in the past, and it hasn't seemed to be a problem.
Now, you and I have talked before about the Buoy 10 salmon fishery. It is really, really popular, and folks are probably wondering why I'm having you on the air now in June, and that's because you're already almost booked up, and the hotels are pretty well booked up too, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem is that most of these people book their trip a year in advance. It's like the day they get out, our trip is done at the end of the day, I'm like, do you want to rebook for next year? And usually their answer is, I want to rebook for next year and a couple other days. So I'm probably 90 to 95% booked right now. We do have another boat that we're helping bookings with, so we have that option. The biggest problem is places to stay. Hotels book really early. There is a lot of camping in the area, and then also with the Hammond boat launch, there's a big place where you can dry camp. So there still is options available, but the earlier you can book it, the better.
So if you're interested in this world-class salmon fishery at the mouth of the Columbia River, the Buoy 10 salmon fishery, book a hotel now or a campground now at one of the state parks or other places. And if you're looking for somebody to fish with, Jim Stahl is your man. His website, nwfishingguides.net. That's nwfishingguides.net for Northwest Fishing Guides. Jim, thanks for breaking this down for us on America Outdoors Radio.
All right, John. Thank you. Have a great day.
We've got to wrap up this hour of fishing and hunting, but if you want more of our show, you can always hear last week's edition of America Outdoors Radio on demand through Stitcher or Podbean. You can hear us online Saturday mornings at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on talkamericaradio.us. That's the new voice of conservative talk radio. And don't forget our website, AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. We've got previews of what's coming up in the week ahead, and you can also like and follow us on Facebook, too, at America Outdoors Radio. We post photos there and information and stories that don't necessarily make it on the air because we just don't have enough time to get to all of it. June is here, and it's a great month to be outdoors, whether you're heading to the lake with a fishing rod in hand or to the range with a pistol or a rifle. I hope the good Lord blesses you immensely in the week ahead, and that you'll also be blessed to spend some time in nature too. Remember, it is your country and your outdoors.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, a nationwide group working to keep public lands in public hands. We've helped ban the use of drones for hunting. We help repair wildlife corridors in key riparian areas. We speak up against illegal ATV use. We collaborate with elected leaders to keep public lands in public hands. We're Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, with membership in all 50 states and Canada. Please join this dynamic conservation group. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Let's get back to the local outdoors scene. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, heard exclusively here on Fox Sports 1380 KRKO.
For your next local shot of the outdoors, we're checking in with Mike Meisberg at MarDon Resort at Eastern Washington's Potholes Reservoir because the crappie have moved back in under the docks. And if you are a registered guest at the resort, you have the opportunity to fish for them. Mike, welcome to the show.
Good morning, John. It's a beautiful day here in Eastern Washington.
So, Mike, tell me about this crappie fishing. I understand it's about as good as it gets.
What's happened at MarDon Resort this season is for about 3.5 weeks, we've been seeing customers fishing for crappie on the MarDon dock and at the fish cleaning station, many times with limits of 25. The crappie on Potholes must be 9 inches to be legal. But it's so exciting because we have not seen a spring fishery for crappie on the dock at MarDon since the 70s. The other day, one of our residents went down for 90 minutes and caught a limit of 25 crappie. He doesn't keep any crappie. He lets them all go. And his limit of 25, he only had 2 fish under the 9-inch legal minimum. And his other fish that he caught and released were crappie to 14 inches. And many people have never seen a 14-inch crappie. It's really a wonderful sight. But the baits are the typical baits we've used since the 70s. The mini jig tipped with maggots, a lure we discovered recently called a trout magnet that's been put out by the Gulp Company. And it's a little minnow, about 1.5 inches, and it looks just like a little fish. You put it on a 60th or 1/32 ounce lead head, just the hook and the little imitation minnow with the special Gulp ingredients that make fish attracted to it. And that has been the best catcher that we've ever seen on crappie at the MarDon dock. But it's really been a lot of fun for the grandpas and the grandkids that enjoy that so much. It could be some exciting crappie fishermen for our overnight guests at MarDon Resort.
There you go, folks. If you want to book a stay, go to MarDonResort.com. The crappie fishing is hot. The limit's 25, 9-inch minimum, and as you just heard, it's easy to make that and go a lot bigger. MarDonResort.com, that's the place to go to book your stay, whether it's in a park cottage, whether it's in a cabin, whether it's in a tent, motel room, or RV, go to MarDon Resort. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, John. Have a wonderful week.
That's a wrap for this week, but don't worry, we'll be back again next Saturday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. right here on Fox Sports KRKO.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.